Can't hear anything.
Can't hear anything.
I can hear you now, Strick.
Yeah. I guess he didn't play the intro music, but listen, that's okay. We're both on the road. Harrison is out. Josh is new to this, so at this point, we're just gonna go ahead and don't worry about the intro music. The intro music has and it would have begun, but we have a new crew that's going on. I'm on my way. Me and Jake and our flights were canceled. That's the craziest thing that just happened. We're sitting both having a great moment with the fans and those who love 93.7 The Ticket. They're at Buffalo Wings and Rings watching the games. Everything is going on. And got a notification that we were not going to be able to make it because our flights were canceled. Not that the whole flight was canceled. We would have been able to get to Dallas, but we wouldn't have been able to get out of Dallas. And so Jake and I came up with an illustrious plan. We put our heads together. We tried to figure it out. Tried to be proactive, and we found the best way to make it to Memphis so that we can support the Huskers here. As our other partner, my partner, is on his way out to Corvallis. I don't think he had any flight issues. That's okay. We did, but we're still here with We Talk Facts. Lester Johnson, E. Strick. How you doing, my friend? A lot of stuff going on. We're going to get into some NCAA basketball, some moments, some upsets. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And also, there was a little bit of controversial statement that was put out over the airwaves by the writer of the Omaha World Herald, Tom Chattel. We're going to dig into that a little bit. And then we may have just a few other things we may talk about while you're here on We Talk Facts. Cluster Johnson, how are you today, my friend? You got an opportunity to go check out some NCAA action today.
Yes, I did. I was able to get downtown, take in some popcorn, feel the moment, feel the air, just watch the crowd. I was observing everything. Went in and watched two really good games. I got to see BYU get upset by Duquesne. Man, I'll tell you what, that Duquesne team looked pretty good. They look pretty good.
You know the Huskers beat them, Kless.
Hey,
Duquesne. Tough game. Huskers were able to get them.
They were impressive. And then, of course, I'm going to tell you what. Illinois, they're going to be a tough out. They're going to be a tough out because they got outside shooting. They got a strong inside game. I think Morehead State, they did a pretty good job of making them, sweat a little bit in the first half. But I'll tell you what, that second half, I mean, they just took off, man. Just like they did in the Big 12 tournament. They started putting that pressure on them, and all of a sudden they were up by 20. So
stay in the left.
So let's figure that out, right? Don't worry about it. You might hear Alexa or whatever her name is, Sally, talk to us a little bit because we're trying to make our way down there. But here's the thing, class. How was it, and how does Omaha do with regards to an event like this? Obviously, we're getting first and second rounds. We would love to be able to get a little bit deeper rounds, but we haven't gotten there yet. But how do you think, Omaha has done as far as their representation in handling a first and second round like this?
Like I said, I thought that the atmosphere was tremendous. I thought everybody everything was convenient. You start looking at little things like, obviously, like bathroom flow, right? And you look at some of these little things, concession stands. You start looking at all these different little stands where you can purchase items from the teams. And I'm gonna tell you what, I really think that it was very well done. It's very well done. I think Nebraska and particularly Omaha has done a really good job of representing themselves well. They do a really good job, like between like halftime and some of the intermissions. They'll put on some other games on the big screen, and you could just see it. You could hear all the different people cheering, and just they're excited to see what else is going on across the country. I want to say, if I was to guess, I know that the arena probably holds about 18,000. I mean, I want to say it's somewhere between 14, 15,000 people there. I mean, like that's a good crowd. That's a good crowd. I'm gonna say it was somewhere between 13 to 15,000 people in there. Really good crowd, and I know NCAA gonna make a little bit of money on that.
That sounds good. Just to throw some news out there right now. There has been some upsets, and there has been some games that you would say started off with a little bit of worry. I think Creighton probably, like you said, had a little bit of worry coming out. It looks as if Dayton was able to pull out an amazing comeback. We thought that probably Nevada was going to be able to hold firm on that one, but Dayton makes a comeback and ends up winning that game 63-60 there in the West region in the first round. Michigan State, 19-4. Michigan State comes in, faces a Mississippi State team out of the SEC, and blows the doors off of them, playing very well. Tyson Walker goes for 19 in that game. Another upset. Listen, those are the ones to watch out for right now, class. Is the 11-6 matchup.
Yeah.
Because you have Oregon that takes down South Carolina, also out of the SEC, 87-73, another blowout there. And then a pretty good game. Actually, Duquesne was running away with it for a little while. BYU ends up getting it down by 2 with like 5 seconds left in the game. And Duquesne ultimately finishes them off 71-67 there in the East region. And so each region is having experienced some form. The West, you got a little takedown, 10-7. Another upset there in the West. And then Oregon out of the Midwest, as well as Duquesne out of the East. So those are some of the upsets at this point. Morehead State was giving Illinois all that they could handle for a while. Illinois ends up pulling that out. Same thing with Creighton. Akron was getting after Creighton very early. They had a little bit of worry on them, but they end up blowing them out by 17 as well.
How about this one, though, Strick? You know, I know we're going to get into some conspiracy theories that we think the NCAA might have done. But how about old Dana Altman having to play his, Creighton? You know, Oregon is going to play Creighton in the next round.
In the next round. See, that's the thing that people aren't saying. I mean, look, we're going to talk about that in the next segment. But there are things, whether it be in the NFL, whether it be in the NBA, that these certain matchups are created for the purposes and the sole purpose of bringing viewership, making people interested. There's, whenever you have, like for boxers, right? Like sometimes boxers are really close friends, but they create, the back and forth, the banter. The same thing that happened with Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather.
Mm-hmm.
And so just sometimes these little things are thrown out into the mix, and they just give you just enough to have interest or to spark interest in it. And so if you don't think that happens, you're sadly mistaken. How see you?
Say that again.
How say you? What you say?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? It's not only sports, but it's entertainment and it's viewership. And the bottom line is about money, baby. It's about making money. So the more they can get viewers, the more it drives commercials, it drives people wanting to. They know that it's going to be a high number of people in Oregon and Nebraska watching that game because, there's still quite a few. I'm sure there's still a lot of Dana Altman fans. I mean, he was great here. I mean, he was here 17 years, right? Man, he was here for 17 years. I mean, I can't even believe he's been gone that long. I mean, I looked it up recently. I think he left in 2010. So, I mean, he's been in Oregon for 14 years, right? I mean, Dana Altman is 65 years old, and I look at him, and he looks great. The man looks absolutely phenomenal. But I don't think that's as bad of a blood deal as what we're going to experience with Nebraska coming up here.
Yeah. So go ahead, finish your point.
No, I just think that I think that as we get into the statement that was made, Nebraska has just always had this thing for Texas, right? It was UT, but now overall, it just feels like Texas, right? we don't divide them up in little groups anymore. It's like A&M and Texas. It doesn't matter. It's Texas. They got a ton of money. They got a ton of wealth, and it just feels like they get their way, right?
Well, especially class when the Indomitian Sioux game, when you just kind of felt like that one was stole from you a little bit.
I was there.
Couple of calls that were made. So it was a little controversy there. So obviously the big money, all of that stuff, the big oil, and they, like you said, they get their way, and it's unfortunate that that's the case. So everybody gets lumped up. TCU, Texas, A&M, everybody, Houston now, all of them get lumped up into a clump, basically, of Texas.
And it seemed like Nebraska's gotten the short end of the stick when it came to these battles, right? It's like, hey, that's Nebraska. It's almost like we can get into what happened with the Big 12. I mean, that was what drove Nebraska away. It had everything to do with Texas. And then obviously Texas and Texas A&M. Texas A&M was tired of playing little brother. And now Texas is back in the mix in the SEC. I mean, these Texas schools, I'm just telling you, they get their way. And I don't know if this statistic is correct, but I did hear that A&M was one of, if it's not the wealthiest NCAA team or program, it's in the top 2 or 3.
No question. And that's another debate when you just the wonder of the why. The wonder of the why of the matter, but let's just kind of talk about it. Has your bracket already been busted? If you're on the stream or you're watching, 402-464-5685, if you want to text in, has your bracket already been busted? I want to know. If games has already happened, is somebody you had to go deep, is it already busted and broken? I'd love to figure that out. Class, what about you? Is your bracket already busted?
Oh man, not my top picks, obviously, but to gather them points, right? You got to get some of them little teams to come through, right? So, I tried to pick some upsets, right? Like I was trying, but it's just really hard. Like who would have thought that Duquesne would be stronger than BYU in the Big 12? BYU being in the Big 12, playing against tougher competition week in and week out. And I'm going to tell you what, Duquesne I thought was clearly the better team, right? Michigan State, 19-14. I didn't pick Michigan State. I didn't pick Duquesne, or I didn't pick Michigan State. I should have picked Michigan State because of Tom Izzo with all the experience that he has. I should have thought a little bit clearer on that, but I'm like, 19-14, they're having a down year. I also picked Nevada. That was an upset that I was trying to pick. I'm like, Nevada seems to work their way into the tournament every year. They seem to do fairly well. And a few years ago, I think they made to Sweet 16, Elite 8. And, we always just think about those kind of things. They kind of fester in our minds. But so far, obviously I picked South Carolina. I picked South Carolina to beat Oregon. So I already got like 4 games that I've lost already. But again, I need my top ones to come through, baby. I still need the top ones to come through.
Well, let's get into that real quick. Let's talk about the top. Let's talk about the top of the top, the number 1 seeds. When you look at each number 1 seed, are you comfortable with where they're sitting, with who they're playing, with how far they can go? And because let's be honest, I don't have a lot of number 1 seeds going deep, class. Something that I saw in the conference championships, that there was 18, if not 19 number 1 seeds got ousted out of their conference championships early. So I think this is a continuation, or is it a wake-up call for the number 1s? And who do you see going deeper in the tournament, and who do you see going out early? And we can get into some conversation on that.
So here's how I rank the ones, just based off of recent history. Here's how I rank the ones. I got UConn. Obviously, they won that championship last year. They seem to have been the strongest team this year. But still, my son Cade's gotten on me saying nobody goes back to back. Like, it's been so long since that's happened that I don't know if that's going to happen again. But it's really hard to pick against UConn because they've just been so strong this year. They have a really tough schedule and they've done very well. I got UConn. I got Carolina, just based on history. And they're a very controversial number one. A lot of people thought that Iowa State had, since they had very similar, they had the same records. And I think Iowa State had, I'm not sure if Iowa State had more quadrant one wins. I think they did. But I think that their out of conference schedule was really pretty bad. So, but still, I like Carolina because they got Baycoat, and they got really good guards. So I put them number 2. Number 3, I'm going with Purdue. I think Purdue had an experience last year. They're very similar to what happened to Virginia a few years ago. Virginia lose to a 16, they come back and win the whole thing. So Purdue might have a little bit of chip on their shoulder when it comes to the tournament. And then, recent history, these last few years, Houston's been very good in the regular season, but they've been piss po. Piss po in the tournament. My man has not done a good job of managing that team in the tournament. Like, I don't know. It's like in the regular season, they hot. They peak early. They peak early in the regular season. They get into the tournament and they act like people gonna lay down, and that's when it gets intense. So
yeah,
I got Houston as the weakest number 1.
Well, I will say I picked. A lot of people were surprised because I picked Purdue to go out exactly where they went out last year. I would have to agree with you with the UConn situation. I do believe that the UConn is probably the strongest, more consistent team that I've seen. To me, one of the tougher conferences to play in, which is the Big East. I think North Carolina worries me, and Painter has not shown me that he hasn't been able to be outcoached. He seems to me that he's been outcoached every time they've arrived in this tournament, and he's been the beneficiary of a perennial, All-American, Player of the Year type of guy.
Yeah.
In Zach Edey. And so he's been the beneficiary of that. But then when guys get in and scheme them up, they haven't been able to make the adjustments needed in order to pull out and win games. And so I don't view them going. I don't view them going very deep right now. I got a call that came in. I don't view them going very deep, but I will say that I think UConn probably has the best chance, and I've actually got Houston getting clipped against Longwood. I got Nebraska beating Texas A&M, Houston getting clipped by Longwood, and Nebraska being able to beat Longwood. That's my hope. Let me just say that. I hope they have a good long weekend. Me and Jakey Snakey.
16th seed.
Hey, you ever heard that song before, Straight? And he's the king of wishful thinking.
Yeah. I'm the king of wishful thinking right now, my boy.
Hey,
but if it happens, woo, my bracket's going to be looking quite lovely.
Yeah. Listen, even if I don't even care, I wouldn't even care if the rest of my bracket was busted. If that happened, if Nebraska was able to go to the Sweet 16, I don't know. Because I'm going to tell you what, at this point, winning the NIT is the height. That's the height of Nebraska basketball right there. That's your era. It's time for them now to write new history, right?
Facts.
It's time for new, and it would be extremely cool if they were able to put a Sweet 16 banner up there. Man,
Boy,
That's almost like winning a national championship. I ain't gonna even front.
yeah,
If
especially
Nebraska
in
men's
basketball.
basketball could do that, especially over the years, we've known they've had really, really great players. You
Yeah,
know, we got NBA legends that's that's come through Nebraska, and for some reason, we're the only Power Five team,
yeah,
the only
yeah.
Power Five team that's never won a game.
First round,
Man,
never won a game,
can't believe it.
always
But
out. Yeah, it's
this
crazy.
could be the year. This could be the year.
This could be the year. Um, this is the year of anything can happen. That's the way I look at it. As we prepare to go to break, um, leave us your thoughts on the stream. 402-464-5685. Are we in the place of wishful thinking, or are we kind of on to something here? Shout us out. Let us know. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the controversies that are thrown out there once we come back right here on WTF We Talk Facts. We're back on WTF. We talk facts. Cluster Johnson, E. Strick. I'm on the road headed to Memphis right now as we speak. Me and
What's up?
you know who it is, Jakey Snakey from Early Break. We're rolling. We would have been on the plane. We definitely would have been on the plane, but we just showed each other our confirmations were canceled coming out of Dallas with storms into Memphis, and we did not, by any means necessary, want to miss the Huskers as they take the floor for a big game against Texas A&M, and that's what we're going to dig into right now, because your boy Tom Chattel put out a little bit of information that is sparking a little bit of controversy out there in the webosphere. Cluster Johnson, let me read it to you, my boy. Tom Chattel says this, and I'm going to let you in on the secret. There is no conspiracy, because we're talking about Texas A&M playing both the men's and the women's teams in the women's tournament and in the men's tournament. He says there's no conspiracy. That's not how it works. The only thing they don't like to do is conference rematches early in the tournament. They don't have a Trev Albers rule, quote unquote. They don't care. No one cares about Trev Albers other than the people in Nebraska. I promise you, people at Texas A&M don't care about Trev Albers. It was good for a little jokey joke and a story. If you're still worried about Trev Albers on Friday, you don't care about basketball. Matt Rule said he was mad about it. There's no reason to get mad about it. No one is going to ask about it on Thursday at the press conference. If they do, that's stupid. Players don't know Trev Albers. They don't care. They're trying to win a game. And I guarantee you A&M players don't know. It's funny it happened twice. From Tom Chattel. What's your initial thoughts? What's your thoughts as well on the stream, Facebook, Twitch, X, or YouTube, 402-464-5685? What's your initial thoughts on that comment?
I want to grab a few of the comments because I'm not a big comment reader, unless it's something funny. But I grabbed a couple of comments after he made this statement. Mm-hmm. So Brad Dickinson, who's a former columnist for the World Herald, said, "No one is going to ask about it at the press conference on Thursday. I'll take that bet. If they don't, they're not doing their job." And remember, this is from a sports writer who's been mailing it in since about 1996. That was the call out. That was the call out from one sports writer to the other. So here's another guy, Soy, from the Weather Tower, at Weather Tower. He says, "BS comment. Whether we care about Texas A&M isn't the point, as most don't really care. Both teams playing A&M isn't by accident. Someone is stirring the pot, and those are the ones who care about Texas A&M." I mean, there are many other comments. Hey Tom, Rule said media attention might have less of a focus on players. That's why he's pissed. So I don't think a lot of people thought that Tom Chattel take was very good. I think that it was almost like he was trying to get attention. My very own comment, because I sent Chattel a message, and I actually know Tom pretty good, but I said Tom is full of crap. It's not about the kids, but it's about viewership in Texas and Nebraska. It is about administration. It's about donors. It's about coaches and alumni. Believe me, everyone will be watching those games. All right? There's a lot of people who got a vested interest in what's going on. You froze on me, Strick. You froze on me. Can anybody hear Strick? But anyway, I think Strick is having some technical difficulties. But I think that at this point, yes, there's a lot of people who are very interested to see what's going on with this game. Let's take a quick
Can you
Are
hear
you
me?
back with us?
Nope. There it is. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
I must have been, when you ride, you cross towers sometimes. So when you cross towers, you get buffered a minute. Y'all don't remember getting buffered. See, that's the problem. Some of y'all are so new school. You don't remember having to log in to AOL and that thing buzzing in your ear for about 10 seconds. That's what's happening right now with the new stuff. Shout out to Kay Johnson. Kay Johnson says, "Hey, Dad, Uncle E, tuning in to watch the show. One love. We love you, nephew. We thank you for tuning in
Hey,
right here."
as you can see behind me, I got the Nebraska and the South Dakota State. Those are the two teams I'm rooting for in the tournament. Let's go SDSU Jackrabbits. They got a tough one tonight, baby.
We had a really good call on the block with Chris Crutchfield, and so one of the things that we're going to get into we'll touch on it in this segment, but we'll finish it off before we get out of here today, is players that are in the tournament, but the impact of what Nebraska players are having in their respective teams, colleges, and universities. And also, Frankie Filler, a Bellevue West grad, has found himself jumping into the transfer portal, and I think he may even test the waters of the NBA draft. Another, as you said, South Dakota State. Another one out of B West is making noise in his rounds out there, and that is William Kyle Jr., who is making noise. Big game from Baylor Shimer today out of Creighton. So a lot of these young players are making their way, going out, doing their things, coming back, either going to Creighton. Some, like Hunter Salas, went out, struggled in Gonzaga, made his way out to the east in Wake Forest. Talk about the players in Nebraska, even St. Thomas, doing wonderful things out there in Northern Colorado. Probably going to jump in the transfer portal and go to another bigger school because of the numbers that they're picking up, as well as Trelly. So what's your initial thoughts on the impact of some of the young Nebraska players that are having on their respective schools? And some of those are also starting to make their way into big-time NCAA tournament play.
Well, obviously there's two players in particular that you and I have a strong vested interest. Our brother G Hep with Chucky at Wisconsin. Us three are in a group chat, and we always sending each other something every day. I'm constantly talking to G Hep about his sons, both of his sons' experiences in Wisconsin. He's got another son, Trey, playing at a smaller college there in Wisconsin, and I just think that it's given hope to kids here in Nebraska, saying that, hey, listen, I can compete and I can do this. I can do this. It's saying that the training that we have here in the state, the competition that we experience in the summer times, if you have that type of ability, you're going to be ready to go. And I even think with the William Kyles and with the Frankie Fiddlers, those two players could probably go up a level. I think they have that kind of talent. But overall, I just think it's a really good look for a state that obviously not as heavy populated as some of the states who have traditional high-ranking players. But, I think we're really showing overall, I think we were showing that we have a fair number of players who have gone out and represented themselves fairly well.
Well, one thing we're going to dig into, because we've talked about this topic before, and that is the impact of the AAU system. And sometimes to the negative that we've discussed, but I want to reach a little bit differently as we close out and we talk about those players and talk maybe about how it could be affecting in the positive for Nebraska and the light that is shining on here. We're going to take one more break. We're going to come back and finish things off right here on 93.7 The Ticket, and we talk facts. I'm just gonna add about the impact of it's gonna be like the impact of some of these players. Welcome back to We Talk Facts. E Strick here, as well as Cluster Johnson. We thank you, and thank you for joining us on the show today. We really, really do appreciate you, especially as we make this trip. And class, you got an opportunity to enjoy the fun festivities right there at CHI. And so we're grateful for all of you tuning in. We're gonna finish up. Class, I would love to hear, because you have Baylor Shireman, you had Isaac Trout, I mean, you've had Chucky Hepburn, Hunter Salas, you got St. Thomas, you got Trelly down there at Alabama. They're going to be playing soon. When you look at the overall landscape, and we got a chance to watch them as not only young men, we got to watch them as babies, young kids, and their growth. Who do you think possibly could break through, use this NCAA tournament, and move on to have a nice career at the next level in the NBA?
Okay, so obviously I'm biased, and obviously I would love. I want to speak it all into existence. You put it in the air. I bet you they all have aspirations, but it doesn't always happen that way. I do believe that every single one of them that you mentioned will have some level of success on the pro level, and that is either it's overseas, D League. There are many different pro leagues all across the world, and I think that all of them will probably have the opportunities to do that. But the NBA in particular, obviously Hunter Salas has the tools on the defensive end and offensive end to be able to be effective. I don't know if he'll be a starter, but it doesn't matter. If you're one of the few to make a team, it's incredible to be able to do that. I would love to see Chucky, because Chucky is a winner, right? Love Chuck. He's a winner. But I do know that you have to, he's more in the mode of a Rajon Rondo type. Rondo didn't score a lot, but he had the ability to score enough. He can make you pay if you left him open. And I'd like to see Chuck do that more, but he has all the intangibles though. He's always had the intangibles. He has an effect on the game that you can't always view in the scoreboard, right? Or in the score box. He's a defender. He steals the ball. He's assists. He's taking charges. He does a lot of things. He's directing people. He's just very smart and savvy. Shireman, the way that guy shoots, I see him more in the JJ Redick mode, a catch and shooter. He may have an opportunity, but he can't be a liability on the defensive end. It'd be, you can't just take a spot in this day and age if you can't defend some. You can't be just a total liability. I'd like to see William Kyle put on a little more weight. And honestly, I'd like to see him go in the portal and go to a bigger conference.
Yeah, I one of the things I'd say is I think I agree with you, because I think a 7-foot wingspan out of Hunter Salas, that wingspan, NBA's the combine folks, they love them wingspans. But the fact he's got good footwork, he handles the ball very well. He's probably a good combo, a 3-and-D type of guy. He'll probably play a different position at the next level, more to the 1-2 potentially. So I think that's possible. I love Chuck. I think Chuck's dog mentality, he gives me Pat Bev vibes without all the antics and the ability. I think he has a better stroker than Pat Bev, but I think he's got that dog in him where he'll get after you and he'll attack you, but then he can also control the game because he's very good at getting his body and creating space and doing a lot of those different things. So I do like that, but I agree with you. I think a lot of them will have the opportunity to play at the professional level. Now, before we get up out of here, I'm going to revert back because I'm going to talk about this Trev Alberts situation and this Texas A&M thing, because I didn't get a chance to really put my 2 cents into the facts of the matter. Now, I look at it from a standpoint of I believe that there's something more in the cake that was baked. I don't think it's just a plain cake. I don't think it's just plain vanilla. I think there's some frosting over the cake that's masking a little bit more of what's in the meat of the cake that's going on. And because it just don't make sense, class. If you're a free thinker, you're a person that thinks outside the box, and you just are able to look at it objectively and not get your heart and emotions caught up in the fact that he just re-signed a new deal. You have a lot of stuff going on over with the building, and he just bolted on you in signing a new contract. If you get outside of that, you've got to look at there's other aspects that have got to be in play. And I'm not talking about one or two. I'm thinking there's more. You've got to look at probably the president situation. You've got to look at the weight that he's probably was carrying, because that's a buffer between chancellor, buffer between regents, and that buffer is gone. One, it was probably some discussions about the replacement of it being a part of that process, and it could have taken a little bit too long. And I'm just giving a few ideas. Probably, you talked about it earlier at Texas A&M, a lot of resources, a lot of moolah, probably don't have to tug and pull and nick and drag and fight as much down there, because Trav comes off to me, as I've sat down with him, as having a big vision. He's a big visionary, wants to do a lot of different things. You could just look at what he did up there at Omaha, that he wants to do a bit bigger things. And maybe there was some pushback or some tug of war fights going on about the money and about different things going on. And that's just a few things. So that's why I look at it from that situation as possibly as to why he went. But it's creating this tension in the air in a lot of ways. And when you look at it, you're like, yeah, we want to bust their butt, because now Trav Alberts is down there in Texas. He left us. He went south for the sun, and now we want to bust his tail.
Let me add something. Let me say something straight. If we was in church right now, right? If we was in church right now, I would tell them to bring out a collection plate, because you're preaching right now, you know? I would stuff my envelope full of tithes right now, because you own
donations.
You're on to something right now. But I will say this: Nebraska has, they got a new AD really fast. Troy Dannon, we got a new AD. He will be
doing new president. What happened? Why it take 8 months? It took you 2 weeks.
2 weeks. We got us a new AD from Washington, University of Washington, Troy Dannon. They say he will be doing a press conference. So you guys will be able to get there and able to see and listen to the new AD before the game. They say he will be giving some words before the game. Troy Dannon, don't know much about him, haven't read up on him, but he's coming from obviously a successful program in the University of Washington. But I really love a lot of things that you said. You went deep. You made me think about some other things I wasn't thinking about. There are some other things I think might have been pressing Trev, but I don't want to say them on the air, because the right now it is what do you have to say if something isn't a definite yet? Not a speculation, but they also use it slipped my mind. But anyway, there's some speculative stuff that's going on behind the scenes that's putting a little bit of pressure on Trev also, and that's also in the Nebraska sports sphere. I'm sure there's some people who know exactly what I'm talking about. Heard about some lawsuits and some things that are going on. I'm sure that some of that stuff might be playing a part too. So, but anyway, hindsight's 2020. Nebraska fans got to move forward, and I think there's such a passion about it because he is a former Husker. And one of the things I think we want to talk about, and we didn't talk about it on this show, but I brought it up before. Former players going back to their alma mater to work, right? We've had Scott Frost come back. We had Steve Peterson come back. We've had Trev come back. And will those people ever be welcomed back? Coach Solich was here. It took him about 20-some years to come back. But he didn't go out as sour as these other three, right? So we may have to do a show on that. I see Juwan Howard. He's having some problems there in Michigan. We may want to do a little research on guys who go back to their alma mater and work, because you're a hero before you get there, and then if you don't win conference championships and NCAA championships, people are not looking at you the same anymore. You know,
Off with his head.
like
Send him
Scott
to the
Frost.
plank.
You know, Scott Frost was a national championship quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like he won't ever be remembered for that anymore. He will not be remembered for being a national championship quarterback. You know, Trev Alberts, you know, will time forgive him? You know, he came in, he did some good things. I don't think he's leaving under the same circumstances as Scott, but I still think that you will have a good number of the population who's not happy with him. I think they wanted him to stay longer, but you know what, Trev, he's an opportunist. You know, he's an opportunist. If people who are in those athletic director positions, they don't get there by staying in places for a long time. They move, they jump the corporate ladder, and he saw opportunity. His salary probably doubled or tripled, and he's like, I don't know if very many of us, you or I, right? And if somebody come to us and offer us triple our income to do the same job, better weather, more money, it's really hard. You know, it's really hard. But we want our heroes to continue to be a hero to us. And as you can see, it doesn't always happen that way.
There it is. That's how we're going to end it today. We're going to check the schedule and be looking out for tweets at Tresvent Street or Eastrick 20, because we may have Supernovas next week. So you may not catch us next week, but the week after, if so. So just be watching out, be checking our tweets, and make sure that you follow up with us right here on We Talk Facts. We'll see y'all hopefully next week, and if not, 2 weeks. Peace. We're out.
Peace.